Lena was a small human girl who loved asking questions. She asked questions about everything she saw. She asked why stars shine, why machines hum, and why some creatures had 3 eyes instead of 2. Her parents always joked that Lena's mind ran faster than her feet, and her feet already ran very fast. One bright morning, Lena's class took a trip to an intergalactic learning station. It was the biggest school in the galaxy, floating like a glowing ring in space. Many species came there to learn: tall crystal beings, small furry creatures, and blue-skinned students with long ears. Lena was the only human in her group. The other students did not pay much attention to her. Some thought humans were slow. Some thought humans were too simple. And some did not think about humans at all. They talked to each other in loud, excited voices, showing off their abilities. One student could solve number patterns in his head. Another could memorize every picture she saw. Lena watched quietly, not feeling sad, but simply curious about them all. Their teacher for the day was Professor Virox, an alien scholar with a long neck and silver markings on his skin. He was famous for teaching logic, puzzles, and mind challenges. He looked at Lena only once when she entered the room. He nodded politely, but he did not think much about her. To him, she was just another visitor. The class followed him down a bright hallway. The walls changed colors as they walked, glowing with soft blues and greens. Lena touched one wall gently and watched it ripple like water. She smiled. Everything in the station felt alive and magical, and she wanted to learn how it all worked. At the end of the hallway, they reached a large round door. Professor Virox placed his hand on a panel, and the door opened with a soft hiss. Inside was a wide chamber filled with floating shapes, glowing cubes, twisting lines of light, and soft music that changed when someone moved. "This," the professor said, "is the puzzle room, a place where your minds will be tested." The alien students cheered. They had heard stories about this room. Some puzzles changed shape when touched. Others tested memory, reaction time, or creativity. Every test was different for every student. Lena felt her heart beat faster, not from fear, but excitement. She wanted to see every puzzle, touch every shape, and understand how they worked. The students rushed forward to try the first puzzle, a floating cube that glowed in green and gold patterns. They tapped it, turned it, and argued about the correct solution. Professor Virox watched them with a calm expression. Lena approached more slowly. She looked at the cube, studying the lights. The patterns moved like waves, and she noticed they repeated every few seconds. Without thinking much, she placed her hand on the cube and slid her fingers gently across one side. The cube changed colors instantly, bright blue, then clicked and opened like a flower. A soft chime rang through the room, signaling the puzzle was solved. The other students turned to stare at her. Some frowned. Some looked confused. They had spent minutes trying to solve it, and Lena had done it in seconds. Professor Virox raised one brow. "Interesting," he murmured, but he did not say more. Lena stepped back, feeling a bit shy. She had not meant to surprise anyone. She had simply seen the pattern, and the answer felt obvious to her. The cube reminded her of a music game she played at home. She liked when things made sense. The class moved on to the next test, and again the students rushed forward. This time it was a glowing line puzzle, twisting and turning like a maze in the air. Lena waited, watching their attempts carefully. The line shifted every time someone made a wrong move. After a while, one student sighed loudly. "This is impossible," he complained. Lena stepped forward and looked at the twisting line. She traced it with her eyes, imagining it as a simple drawing. She took a slow breath, reached out, and touched one glowing point. The maze straightened instantly into a simple line, and the puzzle chimed again. This time, Professor Virox looked directly at Lena. His silver eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in curiosity. "Human child," he said quietly, "how did you do that?" Lena shrugged lightly. "It felt like the line wanted to be straight," she said. "I just touched the part that looked tired." The professor blinked. He did not understand her answer, but he could see she meant every word. As the class continued, Lena did not solve every puzzle. Some she watched, some she ignored. But whenever she tried one, it reacted to her faster than anyone else. She did not show off. She did not brag. She simply enjoyed the puzzles. By the end of the session, many alien students whispered among themselves. Some were impressed, some were puzzled, and Professor Virox, who had expected nothing special, now watched Lena with growing interest. There was something unusual about the human girl, something bright, something unexpected, and he wanted to know more. The next day, Professor Virox decided to test Lena properly. He tried to act calm, but inside he was curious. He had taught thousands of students in the galaxy, and none had solved puzzles the way she did. Her answers were simple, almost too simple, yet completely correct. He wanted to know if it was luck or real talent. He called Lena and the other students back to the puzzle room. The glowing shapes floated quietly, waiting. The lights on the walls changed to soft yellow, as if the room knew something important was about to happen. Professor Virox stood in front of class. "Today," he said, "you will take a formal test. The puzzle room will judge your minds and abilities. It will choose puzzles for each of you." The alien students whispered excitedly. They believed this test showed true skill. Some were nervous, some confident, and some simply glad to have another chance to show their talents. Lena stood at the back, calm and curious. She liked puzzles, so she did not feel scared. She only wondered what the room would show her. Professor Virox waved his hand, and the puzzle room came alive. Light spun in clear circles. Shapes unfolded like metal flowers. Soft music flowed through the air, changing notes every second. "Step forward when your name appears," the professor said. Students went one by one. The room gave each of them a puzzle shaped for their species. A crystal student received a memory light puzzle. A 6-armed creature got a fast-moving maze. A tall blue student worked on a logic ring that changed size. Some passed easily. Some struggled. Professor Virox watched them all carefully, but he kept glancing at Lena. He was waiting. Finally, Lena's name floated into the air in gentle white letters. Lena of Earth. The other students stepped aside, watching her with mixed expressions. Curiosity, doubt, maybe a little jealousy. Lena took a soft breath and walked to the center of the room. She smiled up at the floating letters as they faded away. The puzzle room grew quiet. Then a single puzzle appeared. It was not like the others. It was not a cube or a maze or a glowing line. It was a sphere of soft light, floating a little above her head. Inside the sphere, small shapes moved like stars dancing in a tiny sky. The students whispered, "What kind of puzzle is that? I've never seen it before." Maybe the room made a mistake. But Professor Virox did not speak. He looked stunned. He knew this puzzle. It was called the Mind Spiral, a puzzle that only high-level thinkers ever saw. Even adults struggled with it. The room usually did not give it to children, yet it had chosen Lena. The sphere drifted lower, stopping right in front of her. Lena tilted her head, watching the tiny moving stars. They pulsed softly, forming patterns, some big, some small, some that repeated, and some that broke apart when she blinked. "Take your time," Professor Virox said quietly. Lena nodded. She reached out her hand, but did not touch it yet. She watched the stars move in circles, then in lines, then in spirals. She noticed that one of the small stars was always slightly out of place. She pointed at it gently. "This one looks lonely," she said. The students frowned. The professor blinked again, confused by her strange but honest words. Lena moved her finger closer. The tiny star glowed brighter and drifted toward the center of the sphere. When it reached the middle, the pattern of stars changed suddenly. The whole puzzle shifted into a new shape, like a moving picture. Lena gasped softly. "Oh, it's a story." Inside the sphere, she saw shapes that looked like planets, lines that looked like paths, and a bright center that pulsed like a heart. She followed the shapes with her eyes, tracing the flow of the pattern. "It wants to go home," she said. No one understood what she meant, but she did not stop. She gently pressed her palm to the light sphere. The stars inside moved quickly now, following the path she imagined. One by one, they aligned into a soft spiral, glowing brighter and brighter. Then the sphere chimed, clear and warm. The mind spiral opened like a blooming flower and dissolved into sparkling dust. The test was complete. Silence filled the room. No one moved. Even the floating puzzles around them dimmed slightly, as if surprised. Professor Virox stared at Lena. His silver markings glowed faintly, a sign of deep shock for his species. "That puzzle," he whispered, "has not been solved in many years, and never by someone so young." Lena rubbed her hands together nervously. "It was easy," she said. "It just needed someone to listen." The alien students exchanged wide-eyed looks. Some were amazed. Some were speechless. One or two even looked a little scared. The puzzle room lit up in bright gold. It only did that for special achievements. The soft music rose into a proud melody. Professor Virox stepped forward slowly. He bent down to Lena's height, staring into her eyes as if seeing her for the first time. "You are not a simple human child," he said softly. "Your mind is something rare." Lena smiled, not fully understanding his words, but happy that she had solved a beautiful puzzle. She did not know it yet, but this moment would change her life, and the professor's life, and maybe even the galaxy. After the puzzle room test, Professor Virox could not sleep. He kept thinking about Lena and the way she solved the mind spiral. No child, human or alien, had ever done that. Her way of thinking was strange, gentle, and surprising. She did not force answers. She understood them in her own simple way. The next morning, he made a decision. He needed to know just how far her mind could go. When Lena and the other student arrived, the puzzle room was different. The lights were dimmer. The floating shapes were gone, and a single round platform stood in the middle. Even the air felt heavier. "What is happening today?" one student whispered. "It feels serious," another said. Professor Virox faced him with a calm but firm expression. "Today," he announced, "we will attempt something rare, something the station calls the impossible challenge." The students gasped. They had heard stories about it. The impossible challenge was a puzzle the station created on its own. It changed every time someone tried it. No one had ever solved it fully. It tested everything: logic, emotion, memory, creativity, and intuition. Some students stepped back nervously. Lena did not. She felt a little flutter in her chest, but she also felt excited. She loved puzzles, and this one sounded fun. Professor Virox looked at her with a mixture of worry and hope. "Lena of Earth," he said, "you do not have to do this. It may be too difficult, even for adults." Lena looked up at him and smiled. "But I want to try." Her small voice was steady. The professor nodded slowly. "Very well, but I will stop it if it becomes dangerous." The room darkened. The platform in the center began to glow with soft blue light. A hum filled the chamber, low and powerful. The walls shifted, almost like they were breathing. Lena stepped onto the platform. A ring of light rose around her, forming a circle. Then another circle appeared, and another, until she was standing inside a tall pillar of glowing rings. The impossible challenge was awake. The first ring spun fast, forming a puzzle made of strange symbols. They shifted every second, creating and breaking patterns. The students stared confused. Even Professor Virox had trouble following the changing shapes. But Lena just watched quietly. She saw that the symbols were not fighting each other. They were dancing. She reached out and touched the one that blinked the weakest. The whole pattern froze, then rearranged into a gentle swirl. The first ring chimed and dissolved. The students whispered loudly now. "She solved it?" "How?" That puzzle wasn't even clear. But Lena was focused on the next ring. It lit up in red and formed a maze of floating lines. Each line moved away from her touch, twisting and turning. It was not a puzzle of logic. It was a test of patience. Some students groaned. Even Professor Virox frowned. No one could predict the moving paths. Lena took a calm breath. She remembered something her mother once told her. When things run away, sometimes you should stand still and let them come to you. So Lena put her hands behind her back. She didn't move. The line stopped. They hovered, uncertain. Slowly, one by one, they drifted toward her. When the last one reached the center, the red ring chimed and vanished. The professor stared in disbelief. She calmed the maze. Another ring lit up, this one green, filled with memories from dozens of species, images flashing too fast for anyone to follow. Some memories were loud, some confusing, some sad. Even watching from outside made students dizzy. Lena blinked as the memories swirled around her. She saw a baby creature learning to walk, a forest made of crystal trees, a ship flying through storms, and a child crying alone. She reached out and gently touched a sad memory. The images slowed. The whole ring softened. It glowed warm, filled with calm golden light. The ring chimed and faded. Professor Virox pressed a hand to his chest. He had never seen anything like this. Lena wasn't solving puzzles. She was understanding them. More rings rose. Blue puzzles that tested logic. Gold puzzles that tested emotion. Purple puzzles that tested imagination. Lena moved through them step by step. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. She didn't rush. She didn't panic. She simply listened to what each puzzle needed. One by one, the rings disappeared. Then the final ring appeared. It was huge and bright white. It did not form shapes or symbols. It made no maze. It simply glowed. The room went silent. Even the air felt still. Professor Virox whispered, "This is the core, the heart of the impossible challenge. No one has ever reached it." Lena stepped closer to the glowing ring. She felt warmth, like a gentle hand on her cheek. She didn't know what the puzzle was asking. There was no clue, no pattern, no song. She placed her hand over her heart. "Is this puzzle scared?" she asked softly. The ring pulsed weakly. Lena stepped forward and wrapped her arms around the glowing light, like hugging someone who needed comfort. The white light flared bright, blinding, powerful, warm. Then it burst into thousands of star-like sparks. The impossible challenge ended. Lena stood on the platform, unharmed, glowing faintly with soft white shimmer. The students were silent. Professor Virox slowly walked forward, his voice quiet and full of awe. "You have done something impossible," he said. "You completed the challenge not by force, not by speed, not by power, but by kindness." Lena smiled and kicked her feet gently. It was not hard. The puzzles just needed someone to be nice to them. The professor bowed his head, deeply moved. The galaxy had puzzles, but it had never seen a mind like Lena's. After the impossible challenge, the whole station buzzed with whispers about Lena. Students talked about her in hallways. Teachers looked at her with surprise. Even workers who had never met her spoke her name like it was something special. But Lena did not feel special. She still felt like herself. She still liked simple questions, bright colors, and puzzles that made her smile. She still skipped when she walked and laughed at silly jokes. She did not understand why everyone seemed so amazed. Professor Virox, however, felt differently. He felt a strong mix of worry, curiosity, and responsibility. He knew there had to be a reason behind Lena's strange way of solving puzzles. He could not simply accept it as luck or natural talent. There was something deeper in her mind, something rare. He decided to find answers. The next day, he asked Lena to meet him in a quiet room inside the learning station. It was a small chamber with round walls and soft lights. The air smelled like warm metal and fresh leaves. The room was designed for thinking and talking calmly. Lena walked in with her usual bright steps. "Hello, Professor." He smiled slightly. "Hello, Lena. Please sit." She sat on a round cushion and swung her legs happily. "Are we doing more puzzles today?" "Not puzzles," he said softly. "Questions." She tilted her head. "I like questions." He nodded. "Yes, I know." For a moment, he said nothing. He studied her face, the curious eyes, the gentle smile. There was nothing sharp or intense about her. She was simple, warm, and open, and yet she had solved a puzzle no one in the galaxy could solve. "Lena," he began, "how do you understand puzzles so easily?" She blinked. "I don't know. I just look at them. They talk to me." The professor's eyes widened. "Talk to you? Can you hear words?" "No." She laughed. "Not words. They feel like feelings." She placed her hand on her chest. "Here, feelings." he repeated slowly. Yes. When a puzzle is confused, I feel confused too. When something is sad, I feel sad. And when a puzzle wants something, I can see what it wants. So I help it. Professor Virox felt a chill run through him. This was not normal. This was something incredibly rare. Lena, he said carefully, would you let me run a small test? It won't hurt. I only want to understand your mind better. She nodded cheerfully. Okay. He brought a small glowing stone from the shelf. It pulsed with soft blue light. This is a thought crystal. It shows how a mind connects with puzzles. Most students light it up a little. Some light it up a lot. Let us see what you do. Lena touched the crystal with one finger. The stone exploded with bright golden light. Professor Virox jumped back. The walls lit up. The floor glowed. The crystal turned white hot, then cooled, leaving a soft golden shine. Lena blinked. Oops. Did I break it? The professor stared at her in total shock. No, you did something I have never seen. He walked around her slowly, thinking deeply. You are not just good at puzzles, Lena. You connect with them. You sense their purpose. You sense their emotions. You feel the logic behind them, not with your brain, but with your heart. She frowned softly. Is that bad? He knelt beside her. No, Lena. It is something beautiful and something very rare. The station lights suddenly flickered. The walls changed color. A soft chime echoed inside the room. It was a voice of the station's AI, a calm, ancient intelligence. Professor Virox, it said, the child possesses an intuitive puzzle resonance. This trait has not appeared in recorded history for over 1,000 years. Lena blinked. What does that mean? The professor swallowed. It means you are one of the few beings in the galaxy who can understand systems, patterns, and puzzles on a level no one else can. You feel the truth behind them. Your mind is special. Lena looked down at her hands. I just want to help them. That's all. And that, the professor said gently, is exactly why you are special. But he could not stop thinking. This ability, this talent, it was not just rare. It was powerful. And power always attracted attention. He stood and paced the room. Lena, we must be careful. If news spreads, some might want to protect you, but others might want to use you. She hugged her knees, suddenly feeling small. But I don't want people to fight over me. They won't, he said quickly. I will not let that happen. He looked at her with strong determination. We need to learn where your gift comes from. Humans are not usually born with this ability. There must be a reason. Something in your past, your family, or your origins. Lena nodded slowly. We can look. I want to know too. The professor exhaled with relief. Good. Then we will begin a journey. We will study your mind, your history, and the truth behind your gift. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. And we will uncover why the galaxy has been waiting for a mind like yours. Lena smiled again, small but brave. Okay, she said. Let's find the truth. The next morning, the academy was full of noise. Students from many planets walked around with nervous faces. Everyone had heard the rumors. Everyone knew something big had happened in the puzzle wing, but nobody knew the truth. Only one person had the full story, the alien professor who had tested the human girl. Professor Rylox walked slowly toward the Hall of Minds, holding a small silver tablet against his chest. His long green robes brushed the floor, and his eyes kept shifting left and right. He did not like attention. He did not like crowds. But today he had no choice. Today, he had to make an announcement the whole academy must hear. Inside the hall, hundreds of alien students were waiting. Some had glowing eyes. Some had wings. Some had smooth blue skin. Some had no face at all, only a circle of light. They all turned when the professor entered. They all fell silent. Near the back of the hall sat Lonnie, the little human girl with bright brown eyes. She was nervous, but she sat straight. Her hands were shaking a little, but she kept them folded on her lap. She did not know why the professor had called her here. She did not know what he would tell the others. She only knew her life was about to change. Professor Rylock stepped onto the platform and cleared his throat. The room became even quieter. Even the air seemed to stop moving. He looked at the tablet and then at the crowd. "Students," he said, his sharp voice echoing across the hall. "Last cycle, we conducted an advanced puzzle test in the puzzle wing. A test meant only for high-level thinkers. A test with a success rate of less than 1%. A murmur ran through the hall. Everyone wanted to know what this had to do with a small human child. Rylox continued. "Yesterday, a human girl, only 9 years old, completed all the rooms, every one of them. She solved the final maze in 12 minutes. Gasps, shocked whispers. Someone dropped their datapad. Someone else stood up, almost falling over. But that is not all," the professor said in a steady voice. "She also solved the impossible challenge." Now the room exploded with noise. The impossible challenge was a legend, a myth, something only told in stories. It was said that no brain, alien or machine, could finish it. The idea that a child did it was unbelievable. Rylox raised one hand. The room quieted again. I watched her myself. I checked the system. There is no mistake. His eyes narrowed, but his voice shook with excitement. Her brain works differently. She thinks in new paths. She sees shortcuts even our highest thinkers do not. He turned toward Lonnie. And there is more. She did not solve the puzzles just with speed, but with kindness. She helped the system AI when it got confused. She spoke to it like a friend. She asked it questions nobody had asked before. And because of that, the AI responded in new ways. It opened doors it had never opened. All eyes shifted to Lonnie. Her face turned red, and she looked down embarrassed. Professor Rylox lifted the silver tablet. "This is the study I completed last night. It shows her brain pattern. I have never seen anything like it. It is not a mutation. It is not an accident. It is something humans had all along, but never tested at this level." Another long silence filled the hall. Then the professor said the words that shocked even himself. "I declare Lonnie the newest junior researcher of the Galactic Academy." The hall went wild. Cheers, shouts, confusion, disbelief, everything mixed together. Some students looked amazed. Some looked jealous. Some looked inspired. A few looked frightened. Lonnie stared at the professor, unable to speak. Junior researcher? At her age? It sounded like a dream she never dared imagine. Professor Rylox stepped down from the platform and walked toward her. His long fingers tapped the air gently, as if he was calming something. "You changed the way we see humans," he told her. "And you changed the way we see puzzles. Today, you showed the galaxy something new. It is only right that we learn from you." Lonnie finally spoke in a small voice. "But I'm just a kid." Rylox smiled with all three of his mouths. "Yes, and that is exactly why it matters." The students gathered around her, some asking questions, some congratulating her, some simply staring. For the first time, Lonnie did not feel small. She felt seen. She felt strong. And far above the academy, in the glowing star field, something new began that day. A future shaped by the mind of a little human girl who solved puzzles faster than anyone in the galaxy, because she dared to ask questions no one else thought to ask.